Hello, welcome to BookSpin. Today we are looking at The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, published 1950, or as this edition is called, The Silver Locusts, which was the title it was originally given when published in the UK. And I picked up this particular copy at a second-hand bookshop in Glasgow, and this is a 1963 reissue at the price of 3 shillings. I have no idea how that compares to modern currency, but it's nice to have a vintage edition of such a classic SF book. I really enjoyed reading this, and it's one of my favourite books so far that I've read this year. So, The Martian Chronicles is a fix-up novel that ties together multiple short stories and vignettes that recount the colonization of Mars by American settlers at the turn of the 21st century and the years that follow. While most of the stories were originally published in separate publications, here they are presented in a chronological format with each story title preceded by its date in the novel's timeline, starting with January 1999 and ultimately ending up in October 2026. And throughout this narrative, we learn of mankind's initial attempts to explore and settle Mars, the challenges they face, the interactions they have with the native Martians who have lived on the planet for eons, and the imminent global war on Earth. So, the initial 3 expeditions to Mars all fail for various reasons, and at first it seems unlikely that humanity will ever be able to successfully settle on the planet. And this is largely due to conflicts they run into with the Martians. And despite the technologically advanced state that humanity has reached at this point, they are no match for the Martians who live there in their greater numbers and their almost godlike abilities. The Martians are described as humanoid in appearance with brown skin and golden eyes, and they can communicate through telepathy, and they're able to generate powerful hallucinations through hypnosis. In one story, for instance, called The Third Expedition, the Martians set up a trap for the colonists by recreating the perfect image of small-town America in the minds of the humans, to whom the Martians appear as long-lost dead relatives. At first, the humans are not sure if they've somehow travelled back in time or they're in heaven. But in any case, they are seduced by this image and they are very happy to be reunited with their loved ones. And they let their guard down, not realizing that the whole thing is a mass hallucination and a trap until it's too late. That's one of the stories early on in the book, and it's one of my favourites. It's not very long, however, before the Martians suffer a sudden and unexpected catastrophe when they get exposed to the Earth people's germs, and this brings about a chickenpox outbreak to which the Martians have no immunity, and their population is all but wiped out very quickly across the whole planet. And following this event, we can read several stories about people from Earth who have emigrated to Mars to try to set up a new life there, and their dealings with the few remaining Martian survivors left. And not very long after that, an epic nuclear war kicks off on Earth, and most of the settlers end up returning home to serve the war effort. So Mars gets abandoned. Contact between Mars and Earth finishes, just leaving a few people who choose to stay behind. So it's against this apocalyptic backdrop of these events on Mars and on Earth that the stories in this collection take place. And they're very beautifully written, and they're full of wonderful and fantastic imagery, but they're also frequently quite bleak in tone, and this kind of reflects some of the darker aspects of the human condition, i.e. our senseless greed, our senseless violence, the hubris of mankind, and the ultimate price that we pay in loneliness, isolation, and grief. I think that there's clearly an element of satire here that Bradbury uses to sharpen his comments of humanity through these stories. It's not all depressing and gloomy, though, as there are numerous humorous moments to enjoy alongside the poignant and the eerie and the horrific. I'd say that Ray Bradbury has a very beautiful and evocative style of storytelling, which for me justifies this book's reputation as a science fiction classic. There's a wonderful lyrical prose throughout these stories that conjures up an imaginary, advanced, and ancient Martian civilization full of beautiful and strange and surreal imagery, ultimately ruined by human greed and destruction. We thus have a recurring theme of a haunting lost beauty. For example, have a look at this passage which appears near the start of the book. They had a house of crystal pillars on the planet Mars by the edge of an empty sea, and every morning you could see Mrs. K eating the golden fruits that grew from the crystal walls, or cleaning the house with handfuls of magnetic dust, which, taking all dirt with it, blew away on the hot wind. Afternoons, when the fossil sea was warm and motionless, and the wine trees stood stiff in the yard, and the little distant Martian bone town was all enclosed, and no one drifted out their doors, you could see Mr. K himself in his room, reading from a metal book with raised hieroglyphs over which he brushed his hand as one might play a harp. And from the book, as his fingers stroked, a voice sang, a soft ancient voice, which told tales of when the sea was red steam on the shore, and ancient men had carried clouds of metal insects and electric spiders into battle. The Martian Chronicles is a brilliantly imaginative collection of short stories and is full of beautiful prose, fantastical imagery, and eerie mythology. I think this book has a timeless appeal to it, and it's also one of those rare examples of short story collections where pretty much every story holds up as memorable and enjoyable to read. And it's similar to Cordwainer Smith in this respect, I think. And I'm sure I will be able to enjoy rereading these stories again in the future. So I'm giving this book a score of 5 stars. If you've read this, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Okay, so for the next read, we're going to go for a random pick via the BookSpinner. Let's see what it's going to be. Parable of the Sower. Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. This is my first time to read this author. I've heard that this is an excellent dystopian novel. So let's see what it says. America is a place of chaos, where violence rules and only the rich and powerful are safe. Lauren Olamina, a young woman with the extraordinary power to feel the pain of others as her own, records everything she sees of this broken world in her journal. Then one terrible night, everything alters beyond recognition, and Lauren must make her voice heard for the sake of those she loves. Soon her vision becomes reality, and her dreams of a better way to live gain the power to change humanity forever. Well, that sounds pretty interesting. I look forward to reading that one. I am thinking for my next review video, I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to try something new by combining 3 book reviews in one video in a sort of trio review format. I'm not sure what the other books will be yet, but they will definitely include Parable of the Sower. That's it for now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon.